Hey, it's Theo, and thank you for joining me. Today we have the best decks to climb to Legend. Now, we just had a patch and it shook up quite a few things, especially the StarCraft decks got worse, although there's still a few left. And of course, some decks disappeared, such as Handbuff Hunter. And now we have some new decks, some old decks returning, so let's go over them. First of all, we have the Protoss Rogue, the combo version this time. A more OTK style version. Before we had more aggressive version, but this goes back to the Templars, where you want to combine these Templars, especially if you can make them 1 mana with Sonya. You can get 4 Archons total and yeah, just OTK the opponent. Now, we also have the new Harbinger of the Blighted, so you can like win the game on turn 1 or turn 2 already if you have some Shadow Steps for that. You also got some coin generators here, so you can cheat out some cards early, especially with the Sandbox counter. And then like turn 3 that plus a Void Ray is possible with the weapon on 2. And other than that, you can just draw really fast, especially with also the new card, right? The Twisted Web Weaver. Like you bounce a bunch of stuff, or you play the second copy of it. You'll draw really fast, and then you can set up the OTK again with the Sonya, Sandbox counter, Artanis and Templars and deal tons of damage. So yeah, it's really, really strong at the moment. Now, another deck that's really strong at the moment is the Handbuff Hunter. And it's kind of a new deck, but also not, because yeah, we already had the Handbuff decks before with the Zerglings. Yeah, that doesn't work anymore, but instead now we've got the new card, the Mythical Rune Bear. So now this is the card generally you want to copy, although we also got the Ziliax, which can be kind of crazy if you get this down, because this card can win the game real fast. I think I've seen this come down on turn 4 with 14 attack, so that means your next turn, 2 of them combined deal 56 damage, and yeah, it's kind of good, especially with so much health. So yeah, if you get one of these cards early this far, or Mythical Rune Bear, with one of the buffs, the reserve spot, and like couple muscle, that's really what you're looking for, right? You can win a game like turn 3, turn 4 already. It's pretty crazy. Not really my favorite style of gameplay, but really, really strong. Then we have the Zerg Egg Hunter. Yeah, this was really strong before the balance patch. It got 2 nerfs with Amphibian Spirit and Spawning Pool going up in 1 mana. But the deck is still really good. It's just so easy for this deck to make a sticky board with all the eggs, the death rattles. The RC Rampage can be really tough. It's often a 4 mana 12/12 on turn 4. And then also you can buff all those things with stuff like the Ziliax, the Evolution Chamber, and then finish the opponent with burst like the Hydralisk. Just a really strong deck all around, and really good if you want to climb the ladder. Then we have a deck that I would say is a new deck. It's this Pirate Combo Rogue, and yeah, at first it looks a bit weird, but yeah, you have a lot of good synergies you can with this deck. You've got the location as well, the Crystal Cove, so you can combine it with like the Water Cannon, which it obviously was made for, or like a Bargain Bin Buccaneer, just make it big. Also, Toy Boat is really good, right? This can draw a bunch of cards for 2 mana with all the pirates you have. And then if a minion sticks around, you can potentially yeah, give it Wind Fury with the Sailboat Captain, or even with the Shalaruso buff with the +5/+5. You don't even need to corrupt it, just get the +5/+5, give it Wind Fury, and you probably win the game with that. So yeah, very fast deck, but it's looking quite good at the moment. And then we have another StarCraft deck, which honestly I thought would be getting hit harder by the nerfs. But yeah, it's still here. It's still running the Chrono Boost. I think it cut the Artanis though. It's now too expensive. But now with 2 Chrono Boost and only Hallucinations as other Protoss cards, it means you always draw at least 1 hallucination with your Chrono Boost. And yeah, that is just a lot of damage, especially if you can buff it with Orbital Halo. And besides that, yeah, just like before, right, just a very aggressive deck. Bunch of 1-drops that can push a lot of damage. You got a bunch of damage for Acupuncture and Hot Calls, and of course Grifta and the Protoss cards again. They just deal tons of damage, so really fast deck and really good. And then we have a new deck. It's the Tree Paladin, and why is it Tree Paladin? It's because of Skyla Sale, because basically this deck wants to do one thing every game, which is play Ursol, which then cast Shalarusil as soon as possible. Now often you can do this like turn 5 or 6, because you have a bunch of coin generators with the rogue cards, Metal Detector, Manager, and we got a lot of tutors with both the Arsimol and the Grillmaster. So yeah, you pretty much always have this combo early on. And it's obviously really strong because Urso instantly corrupts the Shalarusil, although it feels like it shouldn't work like that, but it does. And that means you get 3 turns in a row of corrupted Dream cards. And yeah, as you know, they're really, really strong. Also, we got the Lioness in the deck, which you can also tutor with, again, Ursa and Grillmaster. And yeah, that doubles up on the spells of that Shalarusil. And yeah, that's just 30 damage if you save up 3 times the Awakenings card, or just have a minion left, and then you can buff it multiple times with the +5/+5 buff. Yeah, it can win real fast, and this deck is just very consistent with all those tutors. And then the next deck we have is the Blood Death Knight. It's back. It wasn't played for a while, right? Because just playing Vampiric Ballad wasn't really worth it. Because yeah, you had Airlock Breach, which was just kind of better and allowed you to play some Unholy Rune cards as well. But now, as you see the decks that I mentioned before, right, in this video, they're all pretty aggressive. So all the late game and other things you can have with an Unholy Rune, yeah, it's not really that needed right now. You just want to be able to clear boards and stay alive, and that's what Vampiric Blood is really good at. So this deck is just basically fully built to have board clears, draw, and healing to survive those aggressive decks. And then, yeah, late game you've got the Kill Jaden, obviously the best late game card. And it feels like one of those decks that's very meta dependent, and this is just a good meta for it, for the aggressive decks. And yeah, if this becomes a more combo meta, I think it gets a lot worse, because yeah, it's not very good against that, because it doesn't really win fast. It's more about surviving. Yeah, the ways to win. Yeah, Kill Jaden, very slow. Husk doesn't really quite win as much as before. It's also pretty slow, so yeah, you don't really have a lot of threats. But yeah, this works well in the meta right now, and I can definitely recommend it if you're looking for a control deck. Then we have the Location Warlock, the best deck basically before the patch. And yeah, it got quite a bit worse, but yeah, it was so good that it's still good right now. And yeah, it's pretty much still the same as before, right? The giant nerf is pretty big, like that gets delayed by a couple of turns now. But the deck can still push a ton of damage with the locations. And the waKsQcAAA and the Kerrigan, just tons of damage in this deck. Giants come down a bit later, so you have a bit more counterplay now. So that is good, but still a good deck overall. And then we have an actual Imbue deck. Yeah, Imbue got buffed, but yeah, it still doesn't seem too strong. And it seems like the only a good Imbue deck right now. Maybe the Mage deck I'll get later too. But for now, yeah, this one has the best stats. It's not amazing, but it looks playable. So that's nice. The other Imbue decks could still use some help, but yeah, this looks playable for now. And I especially think the Symbiosis buff really helped it. Just you're getting one of those cards out earlier helps a ton. Get those spells out early means, right, your plants are bigger faster, and yeah, that's what all this deck cares about, is just making huge plants as early as possible. Now, this deck is also running Shaladosil without an activative word, unless you somehow get an expensive spell of like photosynthesis. But yeah, it does provide you with 3 spells, of course. One of them instantly gets rid of a minion on the board. One can maybe buff one of yours to maybe a trait. And one of them is an AoE, the Awakenings. And yeah, this deck is kind of lacking in the AoE, so this is the one way you can kind of come back with it. And that's why it's in there. But other than that, yeah, it's just like Imbue Druid before. If you played it, just try and get a lot of spells out early, right? And then make some big plants, or with Sing-Along Buddy, make 2 of them. And then we have this Zarimi Priest. And what is a best decks video without a Zarimi Priest in it? Now, this is quite different from before, though. Before, it was more of a like tempo mid-range deck with the finisher of Zarimi on top of it. But now this is just purely an OTK deck. And that is all because of Narlax, because this lets you play your dragons for once. So you play Narlax on 8, then you play Ysera, and then you can play Zarimi plus 2 Briar Spawn Drakes, whatever order you need, because you might still need to play a few dragons. And yeah, that pretty much beats everyone, right? Like this is so much damage, these 5 cards combined, plus then the end of turn effect twice of Briar Spawn Drake, so if you have any board, there is no chance you survive. Fortunately though, while this deck is pretty popular, the stats aren't that amazing on it. Still solid, but not too amazing, because yeah, you have the combo, but then the early game isn't absolute strongest, right? If you miss some dragons early, you have one board clear here that needs a bunch of dragons that you kind of want to be playing, so it can be a bit clunky maybe, but yeah, pretty consistently though does get to OTK on 8. So yeah, it's pretty scary if you're playing a slower deck. And then we have the Among Us Demon Hunter. Yes, this looks like it finally might be viable outside of the Brawl. And that is in large part due to the new cards, because we've got the Ravenous Fell Hunter. Yeah, no longer it's being used in Armor Demon Hunter because the deck doesn't exist anymore. But now you can resurrect the Durdra with it. And yeah, the Death Fall is pretty good. You get all those crewmates that you shuffled with it. And just like with Armor Demon Hunter, you can do that over and over with the return policy and just get tons of your crewmate and then draw them instantly, so you keep refilling the board over and over. Because as you can see, yeah, the rest of the deck is very aggressive. It's really an aggro Demon Hunter list with all the damage cards early game. And then, yeah, you can just refill the board again over and over and just keep pushing the damage, because there aren't that many board clears in this meta. Then we have a Death-type deck that I didn't really see much talked about, but the stats were quite good on it, so I wanted to highlight it here. And it's this Frost Managerie deck. And yeah, just like before, right, the Frost decks, there's a lot of good cards with the Mirror Manipulator and the Heart of the Winter. Those are very strong. And besides that, yeah, as running some of the new cards, you got the Rite of Atrocity, because there's not too many ways to spend the corpses here. Also, it enables the Death Chiller. Another new card is the Menagerie Jug, new, kind of new, right? But yeah, it's really strong. Got a bunch of different tribes in this deck, and yeah, they can be quite sticky with the Buccaneer. You can give them all death medals, right? There's a Murloc pirate, an undead pirate. This is an undead Murloc, so lots of tribes in this deck. And then, yeah, this Jug gets some huge buffs. And after pushing damage with those minions, again, you can finish them with the Mirror Manipulator or the waKsQcAAA or other ways to deal damage with the location. Then we have the Skyla Imbue Mage. Now, I know Protoss Mage, it might be better. I also have a code for Protoss Mage in the description, but it's kind of just exactly the same as before. So I wanted to highlight this mage deck, which shows some promise, but yeah, the sample size isn't too high, but yeah, it might be something you want to be playing with. And it's a bit different than the other list, because yeah, as the name mentions, it's running Skyla again. Yeah, still a good card, even after the nerf, and yeah, it wasn't played for a while, but yeah, you can still cheat out the Tsunami or the Shaladar now with one of the cheap cards, right? We got the Violet Spellwing here. The generated spell, or you can just swap it with Divination, because it can be somewhat slow with the Imbue cards, and yeah, you much rather get an early Tsunami out. And besides that, yeah, it's running the Imbue cards, obviously, and yeah, those Imbue cards, once you play them right, you can start pushing quite a lot of damage with them. Hero power every turn, you get like 4 or 5 damage, you get 4 or 5 wisps in the mid game, and yeah, again, the lack of AoE, it's really annoying for decks to keep dealing with the damage and the wisps. And then yeah, they have to win before, of course, you get to the Icena 20 damage. That's a lot, and yeah, you can just keep up pressure with all your other cards. I mean, Khadgar is still good. Yeah, sometimes it's not ideal, but it can sometimes single-handedly also win games. And just a lot of late gamers also, Caligula, Shaladar. Then we're getting to the last two decks. The last two classes haven't had a deck for any Warrior and Shaman. They're struggling quite a bit. The lift-off nerf to 4 mana, yeah, it hurt quite a bit, and yeah, they don't seem to be very good decks for either of them. Terran Warrior seems to be like the best thing you can do with Warrior right now. It's not great, but it's something, I guess. So yeah, this is also the list I was running before the patch, and yeah, nothing really changed about it besides that nerf. It still plays the same, it's just quite a bit worse, because yeah, not having lift-off on 3 just makes your curve a lot more awkward often, and yeah, you gotta be pretty fast in this aggressive meta. And then the last deck I got is a Managerie Shaman. This doesn't look amazing, I know, but yeah, Shaman just doesn't have many good options. The Terran Shaman, yeah, not great anymore. Nebula Shaman, not great anymore. And yeah, those lists pretty much still stayed the same. So I wanted to cover this list, which is like a Menagerie deck, though it almost feels more like a Murloc deck, a Murloc Shaman, because of all the Murlocs. And as you can expect from a Murloc deck, it's pretty aggressive, right? You just want to fill the board with Murlocs and maybe some pirates, then you can buff those Murlocs or the other tribes with your Jug, and play a 5 mana 10/10 and just hope your opponent doesn't have answer. Yeah, I mean, it's not great, but it's maybe a deck you want to try out if you're interested in this style of deck. And those are the 15 decks I've got for you. Please let me know in the comments what you've been playing and how it's been going with that deck. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe to help the channel. Thank you for watching, and until next time.